The easiest way to bury discrimination at work is to call it a misunderstanding before anyone checks the records. Tara Ellis had learned that some companies do not ignore complaints because they lack evidence. They ignore them because they are counting on the evidence staying scattered. One uncomfortable comment here. One denied meeting there. One project reassigned without explanation. One locked door. One missed invitation. One security check no one else seems to get. Any single moment can be called small, personal, unclear, hard to prove, but patterns are dangerous. Patterns turn feelings into timelines. Patterns turn doubt into documentation. Patterns make people in polished offices sit up straighter because once a pattern is visible, somebody has to answer for it. So when HR manager Melissa Grant leaned back in her chair, folded her hands and told Tara, "I think you may be reading too much into ordinary workplace friction," Tara did not argue right away. She just looked at the badge report sitting in her folder. Because once that report came out, the room was going to lose the luxury of pretending. Before we get into it, tell me where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy stories about dignity, exposure, and people getting caught when the records finally line up, subscribe and stay with me. Tara Ellis worked on the 12th floor of Norvale Systems, a corporate risk management firm that specialized in compliance software for healthcare and financial clients. The company liked to market itself as precise, ethical, and future-focused. Its website was full of words like integrity, accountability, and inclusion, the kind of language corporations use when they want morality to sound like a brand asset. From the outside, Norvale looked polished. Glass offices, soft gray carpets, branded mugs in the break rooms, diversity panels in spring, leadership breakfasts in fall, photos on LinkedIn showing smiling teams in conference rooms with suspiciously good lighting. From the inside, Tara knew better. She was 31, sharp, composed, and good enough at systems analysis that people kept relying on her work while finding ways to leave her out of the credit. She had joined Norvell 3 years earlier, moved up fast, and developed a reputation for catching workflow failures before clients ever saw them. She was not loud, not political, not the type to create conflict for sport. She liked clean data, clear process, and managers who answered direct questions with direct answers. What she got instead was Brent Kessler, white, 45, director of enterprise operations, always smiling, always circling back, always talking about team chemistry right before he did something that benefited the same small group of white employees around him. Brent never said anything obvious enough for a lawsuit headline. That was part of what made him effective. He just kept creating a world where Tara's access felt conditional. Leadership meetings moved without her. Client dinners she had prepared briefs for somehow became small attendance. Project reviews were rescheduled after she left for the day, though other analysts got calendar updates. Twice she arrived at secure strategy sessions to find her badge suddenly not authorized for the executive conference corridor, while her white counterparts walked through without slowing. The first time she let it go. System glitch. Security hiccup. Maybe the access group forgot the update. The second time, she raised it with facilities. They blamed IT. The third time, she noticed something else. The blocked access happened only on days tied to visible advancement, leadership presentations, high-value client visits, internal promotion review meetings, cross-functional steering calls, the very spaces where being seen mattered almost as much as being good. And every time she asked about it, somebody smiled and told her not to take it personally. That was what finally pushed her to file the complaint. Not a dramatic incident, a pattern. She sent HR a detailed summary, meeting exclusions, calendar inconsistencies, badge access failures, project credit issues, and the odd repetition of being treated as essential in preparation but optional in presence. The assigned HR manager was Melissa Grant, white, 50s, perfectly controlled voice, the kind of woman who had built a career on sounding reasonable while moving difficult things toward harmless language. Melissa invited Tara into conference room 8B on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Frosted glass, round table, a printed legal pad, bottle of water placed exactly where performative concern would put it. Melissa began with the usual script. We take all employee concerns seriously. Tara almost smiled. Of course you do, she thought, right before deciding which ones count. Well, Melissa asked a few questions, nodded in the right places, and made notes with the relaxed pace of someone who expected the meeting to end where she wanted it to end. Then she closed the pad and said, I think you may be reading too much into ordinary workplace friction. There it was. Not impossible. Not false. Just overread. A woman's perception recast as sensitivity. A black employee's pattern reduced to interpersonal static. Tara sat very still. Melissa continued. In fast-moving environments, calendar changes happen. Access issues happen. Managers make discretionary decisions about meeting size. I'm not seeing clear evidence of discriminatory intent. Intent. There it was too. The word people use when impact has already become inconvenient. Tara asked, Did you review the badge logs? Melissa paused, just slightly. We reviewed a general summary from facilities. Not the logs, then. Tara nodded once. I requested the full pull. Melissa's expression changed a little. From whom? Security systems. And you have that? Tara rested her hand on the folder. Yes. Now Melissa sat straighter, because the room had changed. Not yet publicly, but structurally. Tara opened the folder and laid out 3 printed pages. Date, time, employee badge, ID reader location, result, accepted, 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 denied, accepted, denied. Melissa looked down. Tara said, These are my badge records for the last 6 months, cross-referenced against executive corridor access during meetings I was scheduled to attend, meetings I was told about after they ended, and meetings where my project work was presented. Melissa didn't touch the pages yet. That told Tara enough, so she kept going. Page 1 shows 7 denied badge attempts at the 12th floor executive corridor door, all on days tied to senior-level planning or client-facing review. Melissa said carefully, badge systems can be inconsistent. Then page 2 gets more interesting. Tara slid it forward. Page 2 shows access records for 3 analysts at my level. Same project team, same floor, same meeting blocks. Their badges were active. Mine wasn't. Melissa looked up. Tara held her gaze. There are 12 entries there. Same door, same mornings, same hour. My badge denied. Theirs accepted. The silence after that was much better than the bottle of water. Melissa tried once more to move toward ambiguity. There could be an authorization lag. Tara nodded. That's what I thought too. So I asked security for the permission change history. Page 3. A smaller report. Harder to read. Much more dangerous. According to the audit trail, my executive corridor permissions were manually toggled off and back on 4 separate times. Melissa's face lost a little color. Tara said it plainly. They were not glitching. They were being changed. Now Melissa touched the paper. Finally, her fingers slowed over the dates. Tara watched her find the names. Every permission change had an associated requester ID. Not a random system, not a faceless software error, a manager request, Brent Kessler's. Melissa looked up too quickly and then regretted it. Tara said nothing for 1 full beat. Let the room sit in it. Then, that's the pattern. Rain tapped against the glass. HVAC hummed. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed too loudly at something office-safe and forgettable. In 8B, the whole complaint had just shifted categories. Melissa said, very carefully now, Where did you obtain this? Tara almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because some people hear proof and their first instinct is to question how the powerless got hold of it, not what the proof says. I requested my own access logs, she said, and then I requested the authorization audit after facilities told me nothing unusual had happened. Melissa looked back down. There was nowhere left to hide inside friction now. This was not tone, not interpretation, not overreaction. A black employee had been selectively blocked from spaces she was supposed to enter, and the system logs showed who requested it. Melissa asked, Did you share this with anyone else? A bad question. Tara noticed it immediately. Not what happened to you, not how often, not, were there other consequences? Just, who else knows? No, Tara said. Not yet. Melissa nodded too quickly, as if relief had entered the room. Tara noticed that too. Then she said, "But I will if this meeting ends where it started." That landed. Melissa folded her hands more tightly. The script was gone now. All that remained was judgment. And to her credit, or maybe just to her survival instinct, she adjusted. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to elevate this review." Tara leaned back. "Yes," she said, "I think you do." By the next morning, what had been an HR intake conversation had become a formal internal investigation. Security was looped in. Legal was looped in. The chief people officer suddenly had time. Facilities became much more precise in its emails. Brent Kessler, who had spent years operating in the confident gray space between plausible deniability and selective exclusion, was called into a closed-door review with documents already printed and waiting. He tried the usual things first: operational discretion, need-to-know access, miscommunication, timing issues, leadership confidentiality. But audit logs are cruel to people who depend on vagueness. The badge reader had no interest in his tone. The system change history did not care that he smiled well in meetings. The timestamps sat there cold and exact, showing that on mornings when Tara was expected in rooms where visibility mattered, her access had been manually cut, then restored later. Too late for the meeting. Too late for the introduction. Too late for the relationship building. Just in time to make the exclusion look accidental from the outside. That was the genius of it, and also the stupidity. Because the more deliberate a pattern is, the harder it collapses when someone maps it. Three other things surfaced during the review. A client strategy deck Tara built had been presented in a restricted meeting she could not enter. A promotion calibration session she was told had been postponed happened during one of her denied badge windows. And one white manager, cornered by documentation, admitted Brent had once told him, "Tara doesn't need to be in every room to feel important." That sentence ended up in the report too. Good, because bias loves to sound polished until it gets transcribed. Melissa called Tara back into 8B the following Monday. Same room, same chair, no bottle of water this time. Melissa looked different now, not kinder, less certain. "We completed the preliminary review," she said. "The access records support your complaint." Support. Such a careful word for something so ugly. Tara said nothing. Melissa continued. "The findings indicate there were repeated manual changes to your access permissions that were not consistently applied to peers at your level." Tara held her gaze. Waited. Melissa swallowed slightly. "And the changes were initiated through your department leadership." There it was. Not an apology, not yet. But the truth had finally been forced to stand in the room by name. Tara asked, "Was I reading too much into workplace friction?" Melissa closed her eyes for half a second. "No," she said. "That mattered. Not because it healed anything, because correction has weight when it comes from the same mouth that tried to shrink you first." Brent was placed on administrative leave that week and gone 2 Fridays later. Officially separated following internal review. Unofficially escorted out with 2 boxes and the shocked face of a man who had always assumed his version of professionalism would survive contact with evidence. Norval announced process changes after that. Badge permission modifications now required dual approval. Meeting attendee removals had to be documented. Promotion track employees received direct calendar visibility through a separate system no manager could quietly override. HR complaint handling was under review, which was corporate language for somebody above Melissa had realized how badly this could have gone if Tara had stayed one shade quieter. Co-workers changed too. Not magically, not enough, but noticeably. People who had smiled sympathetically and told Tara, "That's weird," started using stronger words once Brent was gone. A white analyst admitted he had assumed her access denials were just admin stuff. One senior VP asked Tara privately why she had never raised concerns earlier, and she answered him honestly, "I did. People just like softer explanations better." That shut him up. Her promotion came 6 months later. Deserved, delayed, still hers. When she got the news, she sat alone in her car for a minute before driving home, not because she was overwhelmed by triumph, but because she was thinking about how much labor it had taken just to get the room to admit the pattern existed. That was the thing people misunderstand about vindication. It does not erase the cost, it confirms it. The version most people would tell was simple. HR dismissed the black employee's complaint. The badge logs proved the pattern. She was right. But the sharper version was this. A black woman kept getting shut out of the rooms where influence lived. A company tried to call it ordinary friction because ordinary friction is easier to survive than targeted exclusion. A manager relied on the idea that if every incident looked small enough, no one would ever line them up. And then the badge logs came out, time-stamped and merciless, showing every denied door, every manual change, every meeting she was never supposed to know she had been blocked from. That is what prejudice often looks like at work. Not always insults, not always slurs, sometimes just controlled access, plausible excuses, and the quiet confidence that no one will ever pull the system report. Until the badge logs prove the pattern, and then suddenly the complaint they called emotional, exaggerated, or hard to verify becomes exactly what it was from the start. A record of being shut out on purpose. If this story moved you, like the video, subscribe and stay close. There are more stories like this one waiting.